This is the Ag Engineering Podcast that rolls right into the details on tools, tips, and techniques that improve you, your farm, and our world. I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain from the University of Vermont Extension, and this podcast is sponsored by Northeast SARE. Thanks for listening. This episode comes to you from Westminster, West Vermont, where I visit with Howard Prussack of Meadows Farm. He grows on 6 acres in the climate zone 5, and his gross sales are around $350,000. This is the last episode in this series with Howard Prussack. After walking around the farm and talking about all kinds of equipment, I mentioned how, someday I'd really like to sit down and talk about his experiences farming over his career. And, well, the conversation took a turn here, and we ended up just talking about that now. So this one is a little bit more philosophical and a little bit more about what he thinks would be valuable as a farmer in today's modern age. I asked him the question, what would you tell your 20-year-old self knowing what you know now? And he kind of weaved in and out of that question throughout the conversation. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Let's jump right into it.
Well, good. I mean, there are other things that people never ask me, and now I'm getting more philosophical in my overview, and I'm trying to think of my legacy and what the future is.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting, or for me, I guess, as I work with a lot of young farmers, and you have a lot of expertise, so there's a lot to learn from somebody who's been in it for so many years.
Yeah. So I get this feeling that they're not looking at some of them aren't looking at the long-term view of what they're doing, and why are you in business? What are you hoping to achieve? You're trying to make a living, you're going to have a family and all these things. And sometimes I think they're setting themselves up for really hardship. They've seen too many online YouTubes and too many people who've written books, and we want to do a sustainable, ecological, reforest, this whole thing of what they want to do, and we're going to do it on 1/4 of an acre and make a living, and my wife's going to bake bread and make muffins, and and just it's a big order, a lot, a lot to do, and if you don't have a lot of money to sustain, sustainability, what does that mean? It's if your business isn't sustainable, then all those things that you say you want to do, and trust me, you're not saving the planet, It's all, everything, all those adjectives, it's all marketing. And it all may be good, and I'm not saying it's bad, but, don't set yourself up, don't beat yourself up.
I've kind of picked up on that trend that a lot of the growers who have been at it for 10, 15, 20 years have really narrowed down their focus and selected a few crops and gotten good at that, and they're not trying to do everything so much. And
doing everything is impossible. You can't do everything well, and that's why we focus on, we're not doing microgreens, we're not doing a lot of things. I don't do beans, I don't do peas, we do, even though sometimes they're really just commodities, but if you could do them well and efficiently, you can make money at it. People do buy potatoes. People, like Vern once told me, he says, you grow squash, and no one thinks that there's money in squash, growing winter squash. And I said, well, there's not a lot of money in winter squash. Well, there's not a lot of money in a few winter squash. But if you grow a lot of winter squash, there's a lot of money. So it's volume.
yeah.
So if you grow 20 tons of winter squash, there's good dollars there. And if you could do it efficiently, it's a crop that there's not a lot of once you plant, there's not a lot of hand maintenance in it.
Right.
Because labor is the killer now. It's the absolute killer, and so you need to set up. Your system has to be set up minimal labor.
Labor is definitely a big lever now. Was labor as big of a concern back in the 80s?
No. No, wages were cheap.
Hmm.
Cheaper. And even though produce was cheaper, I mean, I've saved my invoices from the 70s even. I used to sell organic Green Mountain potatoes for 10 cents a pound, you know.
Yeah.
It's like crazy price. $7.50 for a 50-pound bag of potatoes, you know, delivered to New York City.
And what's the rate now for a bag of potatoes?
I get $60 for a 40-pound bag. So yeah, things are different, and you know, wages are up considerably, but and everything's up.
Everything's up. Yeah.
But you know, one of the biggest problems in produce, people still remember what they paid for, you know, sweet corn 10 years ago and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, nobody remembers what they paid for gas, but somehow they remember how much potatoes should be.
Yeah.
And stuff. So we ignore it and we raise our price and we find our market, you know. Don't pay my price, that's fine. You know. It's sort of a self-curating system.
Mm-hmm.
People who won't pay the price, they're gone. People who are left will pay, and you know, they believe in what we're doing.
Right.
So
right.
It's not everything for everybody.
I apologize for the audio on the remainder of this episode, for I somehow didn't save or lost the file from Howard's mic. I did happen to hit record on the camera, but I was holding it, and so it doesn't have the greatest audio. But hang in there, because the conversation's really good.
So there's information you could glean from anybody, but it doesn't. Nothing. It's not an easy lifestyle to get into. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
But I'm glad I did. I've traveled the world being a farmer. Who would have thought that? I mean, I could have been in any career and I wouldn't have been to the countries that I've been to, but I did because of what I've done. So
how do opportunities like that come up? How do you network with those type of people?
I don't know. It's all erratic, but like, you know, it just, you know, I've gone to Cuba twice, Burma. One thing leads to another. It's really bizarre. I ran into this guy from Bangladesh when I was in Nepal, and a few years later he calls me up and I want you to come to Bangladesh and, you know, blah, blah. And we were about to go, but I got scared because somebody had their head cut off.
Oh.
And it's like, not this time, you know.
Thanks, but maybe later.
So he was very disappointed because we had our visas. We were ready to go.
Oh, wow.
I was bringing my wife. I was bringing somebody who worked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring you to, you know, on a trip. So, but yeah, it all just felt one things lead to another.
In case you don't know Howard, I thought now would be a good time to ask a few introductory questions so you can get to know who he is and his business just a little bit more.
Hi, Howard Prussack. Right now we are sitting in the Central Office Command Center at High Meadows Farm in the heart of Westminster, West Vermont, which is southern Vermont. And I bought this farm in 1979, and I've lived in Westminster West since 1971. And that's when I started working on a farm in 1971. So I've been involved in farming in this village for 50 years now. It's my 50th anniversary. Ta-da! Happy birthday.
Congratulations.
And we were certified organic in 1976 by Grace Gashoni. I think we were the first certified organic farm in Vermont.
That's a fun statistic to hold.
Well, that's not going to change.
Nope.
That's the cool thing
You've
about
earned
it.
that title.
Yeah, you know, it's like, hey, that's not going away no matter what.
Yep. How many acres are you growing on?
Right now we have about 6 acres in production and about 6 acres in rotation of green manure crops, and the rest is in hay. And we've got 25,000 square feet of greenhouse space, and so a lot of the business is horticultural and then vegetable.
And your markets are a lot of wholesale and some farmers market, right?
90% of our business is wholesale, and because of where we are, the geographic location of the farm, we're on the corner of like 3 other states. So we deliver to 4 states from here with our own trucks every spring through the plant season. We're in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire.
And what's your climate zone?
It's a 5.
If you don't mind sharing, what's a rough sales range?
Well, it was pretty steady at north of 500,000. We peaked at about 550,000 3 years ago, but we've been slowly, purposely cutting back some parts of the business. We had a contract with Whole Foods that we've had for like 20 years, and we walked away from that. So that was a $70,000 contract every spring. But what was interesting is that other business picked up that volume. It's like, every time we try to simplify and shrink things, like the other accounts organically increase their sales, and we get rid of we'll get rid of, in the last 2 years, 50 different items, but the sales on the remaining items go up. So it's all category management, and I told somebody less is more.
Yeah.
And it works that way. But we have shrunk the business down to like 350,000 for this year.
But even 300,000, that sounds like a pretty good number for 6 acres.
Yeah, but it's the greenhouses.
It's the bedding plants.
Yeah. It's greenhouses represent like 70% of our business, and probably 70% of the profit margin.
Right, because your other main crops are squash, like you said. Those aren't the
right. They're not
the golden fruit.
yeah. It's okay. We do margin-wise. It does the best of our vegetables, but none of our vegetables could compete margin-wise with our bedding plant business.
Yeah.
So, but we like growing vegetables. We like being outside during the summer, and it keeps us working in vegetables. So it keeps us at the farmers market and stuff. So we like that part of the business.
What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? Or a 20-year-old getting started now,
Put your money in Microsoft. And pay attention when Amazon becomes a thing, buy all the stock you can. If I could tell my 20-year-old self that. Well, I wound up buying a farm up in the hills as opposed to buying it along the river. And it's a double-edged sword. I mean, my life has been good up here. It's a little harder to farm in the rocks and the hills, but on the other hand, we had much less disease and insects that friends of mine have down along the river. And so it's hard to know. I mean, it's beautiful up here. I like it. And I probably, but there's no place in Vermont that's not beautiful.
That's true.
So I don't know. I guess I would have learned better bookkeeping skills. My younger self should have paid more attention to basic skills. I should have learned how to weld.
Yeah.
and the trades. The trades are great to learn. Other than that, I always did pay myself first. I made sure I saved money, and I learned that from my father, who said, put aside your own money every day, every week, or whatever, and save it for someday when you're not working. You're gonna be happy you did. So
what's the next 10 years look like for you?
We're ratcheting it down a little more. Going to continue the vegetables, but I'm looking forward to not working quite as hard, so we could do more now that COVID, hopefully COVID's over. We'll see. I mean, we haven't traveled anywhere. Normally every winter we go away to someplace warm, South America, Central America, or whatever. I'd like to take my wife to Europe and stuff. So we'll see. I want to travel. I can afford to travel. We're rebuilding our house, putting in a new kitchen. You know, now I could invest more time and money into making our lives better.
Sure.
What I want to do is mentor other farmers. That's what I'm working on now. We're going to be I have 3 students coming in November who are interested in farming. So just passing on my learned experience and my half-baked wisdom and skills, and pass it along.
Well, you're doing that right now, so thanks.
Oh, well,
Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. I'm glad you came by, and hope you enjoyed the visit.
Absolutely, it's great to see everything you got going on here, and it's always fun to pick your brain on some of the nuanced things that you might
I
not
didn't even
talk
mention
about.
my black garlic, and we're going to develop more of our online sales with that, and hemp products online.
Yeah.
Like I'm mail ordering joints. So it's awesome.
There you go.
It's the future of farming. Vermont joints.
Like you said, you don't even smoke it.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. And good health is your best wealth. That's what I would tell my 20-year-old self. Is your only wealth is your health. So take care of your health.
What do you think the biggest impact on health would be? Like what's the biggest thing you can do to stay healthy as a farmer who's always busy?
Learn ergonomics, learn how to lift correctly. Something I was never taught. Protect your back, learn how to lift correctly. Lift with your legs, lift with your back straight. Don't lift with your back. Learn how to stretch. Do yoga. I would tell my 20-year-old self to do the yoga. I would have been a yogini by now. So yeah, yoga would be great. Anything that keeps your muscles and limbs stretched and active. I've always eaten well, so that was good. But learning how to move correctly and would be good. And take up tennis. Take up tennis, I would tell my 20-year-old self.
Is that a hobby you do?
No, but
No.
it's a good physical activity. That's one of the best conditioning things. And farmers, we do work hard, and then a lot of us get really strong, but that doesn't necessarily translate into overall physical health and muscular health. Whereas an active sport can really contribute to all-around conditioning. So a lot of farmers don't pay attention to conditioning, and that's really important to stay in good shape, for mental reasons and for physical reasons. It's a physical lifestyle, so you got to keep the chassis working and not rusting. It's real important. So that's something that we need to talk about more. Ergonomics on the farm.
What hobbies do you do off farm to help your mental clarity? Or do you?
What's a hobby?
Farming is the hobby, right?
It is. I mean, I do have a lot of I collect old farming magazines and periodicals and books, and I love looking at them, and I like art. I used to paint and draw, and going to be getting back into doing that kind of stuff. So it's really important to have a creative outlet. And my kids are great. I didn't give them enough attention when I was starting the business. The farm and the business is just so demanding. And you don't get those years back. So I would tell my younger self to pay more attention to the kids.
It's hard because you're trying to grow the business that sustains your lifestyle as well at the same time.
It is hard, and that's unfortunate byproduct of our capitalist system that demands you work yourself to exhaustion to afford certain things. And one of the good things I see a lot of young farmers setting up as their lifestyle is going to be more sustainable. Maybe if they could make it work, it'll be admirable and it'll be work. I think I see a lot of people recognizing the fact that their family is like really important. So that's a good thing. That can't be stressed enough.
Yeah, well, that's, you said it was a hard thing for you. That's a hard thing for farmers.
Well, we stress, when farmers get together, it's like production, production, production. That's all we talk about.
Yeah.
All the seminars are, production. And look at this, gee whiz machine. You can increase by 12%, your yields. And that's all we talk about. And I guess that's natural and normal in any business. You go to any convention for any trade or anything, go to a plumber's convention, I'm sure they're not showing pictures of their families to each other. They're talking about plumbing or whatever, So it's normal, but it's good to be reminded and keep it and try to keep things in perspective. And vacations, I never took vacations when I was younger. That's important. Traveling is important. The more I travel, the more I know. And I didn't know that, So it is important to get outside of yourself and to get outside of Vermont and and I don't mean going to New Hampshire either. That don't count.
New York?
Yeah, way over to New York,
I mean, up to Maine feels like a vacation.
Going to Maine, it feels like another country. We were in Maine just several weeks ago, and it's great. We went to Monhegan Island, and I went to visit Samuel Kamen up in Walpole, Maine. I got a lot of farming friends up there. I didn't make it to see Elliot this trip. Maybe hopefully next trip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I would tell my 20-year-old self. And any 20-year-old who wants to get into it. Congratulations.
Is there anything else that you'd, like to share or what you find would be important to share for new farmers, beginning farmers, or even seasoned growers that may be listening?
Plan what you're going to do and do what you're going to plan. Make your word mean something. Treat everybody nicely, and treat your employees nicely. Treat your customers nicely. Treat everybody with respect. Be fair, be honest.
Be a nice person.
And someday people might say, that's a nice person. Someone once told me, you want to be the type of person that even the Undertaker's crying. So, it's a goal. I'm not there yet.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for letting me interview you and follow you around your farm.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If I can ask you or direct you to do one thing, that is to go to the website for this podcast, agengpodcast.com. That's agengpodcast.com. There you'll find the show notes. You'll find links to the farmer who we chatted with today, as well as photos or videos from the call when I visited the farm. If you've got some feedback to share, my contact information's on there, or you can leave me a voicemail, and you can do that right from the link in the description in the mobile app you're listening to this to. So go ahead and do that. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a great day.